Hi, welcome back. First, I'd like to say Happy Veterans Day to all my fellow brothers and sisters serving, who have served or are serving or have served before. Thank you very much for this day. I'm in the shop today to give a little bit of a tour of my work holding devices. I had a viewer ask me about it, so I thought, I really didn't cover it in any kind of detail in one of the episodes. I kind of brushed over it, so I thought this would be a time to go back and show the different work holding devices that I use or have used in the past. Hopefully you can get something out of it, and so follow along. This is an example of the very first work holding device that I ever used. It's a homemade. You've maybe seen plans for them on the internet. It is a poor man's work vise or something like that. This is made out of nothing more than some common plumbing fixtures, flanges, pipe, screws, and various things like that. The concept of it is and it's mounted on a piece of wood that I then put in a regular vise. You have to mount it to something. I guess you could mount it directly onto the workbench, but I just don't like permanently attaching things to my workbench. But the basic concept is this is your work holding plate. It's nothing more than a reducer, some pipe, a flange, and it fits into an eye bolt that is then goes through this T, which is then fastened to a short piece of pipe that's into another flange, then bolted down. The concept of it is you can reposition your bench or your piece of work. You mount this flange to the bottom of your decoy, much like we have our other projects. It mounts some screws to the bottom board of your decoy, and then you're able to reposition the work as you need to. You then merely take a wrench and draw it up tight. Now I don't have the decoy attached to it, so it's not going to stay, but then this then holds your work. Then you can move it, you can loosen it again, turn it. Now this thing doesn't have a whole lot of holding power. One of the things I did to give it a little more holding power is at various positions around this flange I ground a little indention so that that pipe would nestle in there a little tighter than what it would if that was just left smooth. And as you can see, that's one right there, so that would draw in tight, hopefully. And as you can see, it's a little ungainly. It doesn't hold up to a lot of heavy use, but it will hold up to some rasping, some sanding, and things like that. Don't think you're going to be able to really get after it very vigorously with a mallet and chisels or even a draw knife. It just doesn't have enough holding power. But it will hold your work so that you can have hands free and use both hands to use a sander, to use a fillet knife, various things like that. So, I think this is fairly old, but I would say for less than 25 bucks, you can put together something like this. Now this is the work holding device that probably actually generated the question from the viewer. And the question was, did you make it? Where did you get it? Tell us a little bit about it. And so I tried to answer the individual back, and it's kind of hard to just with words describe how it is, but so I thought I would put together this video about how this actually works. I did not make this. I actually bought it from a gentleman who was on the decoy carving forum that is now defunct. It's now transitioned to the internet, Facebook, and it goes by basically the same name. But he sold this to me, and I think he made them kind of on the side. It's a work holding device that's basically made from a trailer hitch ball mount, extended shaft, so that you get this extra standoff between the vise and the work plate. And it is made out of basically two pieces of steel, one of them that's bent into an L shape, And then the third piece of steel is held together with 3 bolts, 2 up top and 1 at the bottom. In order to reposition this, it is then captured, and it's got a horseshoe shape cut out into this plate of steel here, and then the plate in the back. And then this piece of steel here is mimics the shape that the ball is captured in, this kind of horseshoe shape. And it is held in place and held tight by tightening one of the 3 screws. You have to keep them somewhat an equal distance in thread count so that it holds it symmetrically. But basically, you don't have to loosen but one of them. And it kind of takes 2 wrenches, but one can kind of be kept on here, and the other one can be moved in and out. And then as you can see, it moves rather freely here. Put this on. And now it's held in place. This thing right here, this is not actually a work holding plate. This is actually a locking plate, so that, now please forgive me, the thing's not fastened to anything on the bench. It's just on another piece of wood that I put in my vise, so it's going to move around a little bit. But this is a locking nut. Thing's getting just a little bit tight with some rust. This is a work holding plate that is mounted to the bottom of your work, like this. Okay. This then threads onto the fine threaded shaft of the trailer ball hitch. Then this is tightened up against that piece so that it won't want to loosen up as you're working. So you can attach your work to this, put it on the vise, run this up against the nut that's attached to this, and it basically holds it tight. Then when you need to reposition your work, a couple of turns, maybe a little more than what I thought. There it is. And then it is relatively free to move. Then when you get it to the position that you want it, which you can lean it way over like this if you want, and I joked before about using the largest tool available for the job, using a huge crescent wrench. But as you can see there's plenty of bite provided by these 2 steel plates to keep this ball joint immobilized so that it holds it relatively tight. Now, as I said with the other work holding device, you can't just wail on it with a mallet and chisels, or mallet and gouges or whatever, but it does hold it very securely for draw knife work, sander work, spoke shaves, various things like that. So it is a very good work holding device. I think I paid the guy $30 for it. I could have made one myself, but I didn't. Probably couldn't have done it for $30. So I thought it was quite the deal at the time. And it is actually one of my more frequent go-to vices. The reason being is because it is portable. I can attach it to my workbench, and the main way I do it is with these bench dogs in this vise, and I run it in there, and now it's as sturdy as my bench is. You can tell my bench isn't just super rock steady, but it does. If you saw in the video me working with the fillet knife, it's perfect for that. The absolute Cadillac of work holding devices in my arsenal is this device right here. It's known as the Workstation. It's sold by a company called the Duck Blind that is run by Willie McDonald and Diana McDonald, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It's quick to operate, it's sturdy, and it's built like a tank. I do have it mounted permanently on this workbench, but it's multifunctional, so I don't tie up my big workbench by putting it on there. It is, as you can see, it's locked in. Now I don't have that lock nut tightened up on it, so this top plate will rotate a little bit, but it's real simple. It's locked in place, it's unlocked. It's unlocked, locked in place. It's one-handed. You can rotate things, lean things over to the side, and when you get it where you want it, lock it in place. The way I use it for when I'm using draw knives, spoke shaves, various things like that, I sit astraddle of this bench and I can work on it like this right here. I can then operate it, reposition, lock it down, it's good to go. Additional thing I wanted to show about that workbench is not only can you attach a work on it, but I attached one of the plates to a piece of wood, which then I put a clamp on, and that holds the shaft to my Foredom carver. So the Foredom can sit on that. I can sit on the bench. I can sit by the bench, have the cable over my shoulder, and it works very well. Now, one thing that I also did there, you can see how I would straddle it if I'm using a draw knife, spoke shave, thing like that. And I put a magnetic tool holder that holds my tools on it, and that right there is one of the most functional pieces of carving equipment that I have. It is just absolutely phenomenal. I hope you enjoyed that quick demonstration of the various different work holding devices that I use. Hopefully you'll find some benefit in it, and you might be inspired to make your own or seek out one that's professionally made or made by someone with some metalworking skills. Hopefully it inspires you. You can use it for decoys, you can use it for other things to hold the device or hold the work. Hopefully you get a chance to go out and enjoy the day if you're off. If not, enjoy tomorrow, or just enjoy the freedoms that have been given to you by those who have served our country and are serving our country. So until then, thanks very much. Go make some shavings, you'll feel better.